The stars had always been silent. For thousands of years, humans looked up at the night sky and wondered if they were alone. Now, in the year 2347, they had their answer. They were not alone, and the universe was not friendly. Admiral Park stood on the bridge of the warship Defiance, his hands clasped behind his back. He was 63 years old, with hair and tired eyes that had seen too many battles. The scars on his face told stories he never spoke about. He had served Earth for 40 years, and he had always believed that humanity would face a great test someday. That day had finally come. The main screen flickered to life. A young officer named turned from his station with fear in his eyes. "Admiral, we are receiving transmissions from the outer colonies. Something is coming." Park nodded slowly. "Show me." The screen displayed a view of space that made everyone on the bridge stop breathing. Ships. Thousands of ships. They filled the darkness like a swarm of metal insects, each one larger than anything humanity had ever built. They moved together in perfect formation, blocking out the stars behind them. 2,000 warships, said, his voice shaking. They call themselves the Dominion. They have conquered over 300 star systems. 47 species have fallen to them. None lasted more than 3 cycles. Park studied the ships on the screen. They were beautiful in a terrible way. Sharp angles, dark metal, weapons that glowed with deadly energy. Each ship was designed for one purpose: destruction. A new transmission came through. The face that appeared on screen was not human. The creature called Lord had pale blue skin and 4 black eyes that showed no emotion. His voice was cold like winter wind. "People of Earth," Lord said, "I am Supreme Commander of the Dominion. Your planet has been selected for integration into our empire. You will surrender unconditionally. You will kneel before the Dominion. If you refuse, you will burn. This is not a negotiation. This is your only warning." The transmission ended. Silence filled the bridge. Every officer looked at Admiral Park, waiting for his response. Some of them were young, barely out of training. Others were veterans who had fought pirates and rebels, but none of them had ever faced anything like this. Commander stepped forward. She was Park's second in command, a woman in her 40s with sharp eyes and a sharper mind. She had earned her position through skill and courage, and she never showed fear even when she felt it. "Admiral," she said quietly, "our fleet consists of 340 combat-ready vessels. We are outnumbered almost 6 to 1. What are your orders?" Park did not answer immediately. He walked slowly to the main window and looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, an army waited to destroy everything he loved: his home, his people, his world. The mathematics of the situation were simple. Earth could not win a direct fight. They had more ships, more weapons, more experience. By every logical measure, humanity should surrender. But Park had never been a man who followed logic alone. He thought about human history. He thought about the times when small groups of people had stood against impossible odds. He thought about the spirit that had carried humanity through ice ages and plagues and wars and disasters. Humans were not logical creatures. They were stubborn, creative, and absolutely unwilling to accept defeat. He turned back to face his crew, and then he did something that shocked everyone. He laughed. It was not a nervous laugh or a crazy laugh. It was a real laugh, deep and genuine, as if he had just heard the funniest joke in the universe. The sound echoed across the bridge, and the officers stared at him with confusion. Admiral asked carefully, "Are you all right?" Park smiled widely. "Open a channel to the fleet. I want to speak with Lord directly." Hesitated. "Sir, are you sure that is wise?" "Do it." The channel opened. Lord appeared on screen again, his 4 eyes narrowing with annoyance. "You wish to surrender already? Good. Humans are smarter than I expected." Park shook his head, still smiling. "No, Lord, I do not wish to surrender. I wanted to tell you something important." "Speak quickly. My patience is limited." You have studied our population numbers, Park said. You have counted our ships and measured our weapons. You have calculated that we cannot defeat you. And you are correct. By your numbers, we should kneel. Lord nodded. Then you understand your situation. I understand your mistake, Park replied. You have studied our resources. You have studied our technology, but you have not studied us. You have not studied what humans are. You are a young species, Lord said dismissively. Weak, primitive, you have achieved space travel for only 3 centuries. The Dominion has ruled for 10,000 years. Park's smile grew wider. Let me tell you about humans, Lord. We are the species that invented fire and then used it to cook our food. We are the species that looked at wolves and decided to make them our friends. We crossed oceans in wooden boats. We flew through the air in machines made of metal and dreams. We walked on our own moon because we wanted to see what it looked like up close. He stepped closer to the screen. We are the species that turns disasters into jokes and tragedies into songs. We fight when we should run. We laugh when we should cry. We hope when we should despair. You think numbers matter. You think logic matters. Lord, you are about to learn something that 47 species never had the chance to teach you. And what is that? Lord asked, his voice cold. Park's eyes burned with defiance. Humans do not kneel. We never have. We never will. You can bring your 2,000 ships. You can bring 10,000 ships. It will not matter, because you cannot break what refuses to bend. He turned to end the transmission. The screen went dark. The bridge was silent for a long moment, then slowly began to clap. Other officers joined her. Within seconds, the entire bridge crew was applauding their admiral. Park raised his hand for silence. Enough celebration. We have work to do. Contact all fleet commanders. Tell them to prepare for battle, and tell them to bring their sense of humor. He looked out at the stars one more time. The enemy was coming. The odds were impossible, and for the first time in years, Admiral Park felt truly alive. The war for Earth had begun. The war room deep inside Earth's moon base was filled with tension. 12 of humanity's best military minds sat around a long table, their faces lit by holographic displays showing the enemy fleet. The numbers had not changed. 2,000 warships against 340 human vessels. Every simulation ended the same way: total defeat. Admiral Park entered the room and everyone stood. He waved them back to their seats and took his place at the head of the table. Commander sat at his right side, her tablet filled with notes. Chief Strategist Lee Minyu sat at his left, a thin man with glasses who had spent his entire life studying warfare. "Tell me good news, Minyu," Park said. Lee Minyu shook his head slowly. "I cannot, Admiral. I have run 1,000 simulations. In a direct battle, we lose every time. If we fight their way, using their tactics, following their rules, we die." "Then we do not fight their way," Park replied. The room went quiet. Officers exchanged confused glances, leaned forward. "Admiral, with respect, there are only so many ways to fight a space battle. Ships shoot at other ships. The side with more firepower wins." Park smiled. "That is what they believe. That is what 47 conquered species believed. And that is exactly why we will do something different." He pressed a button and the holographic display changed. It showed images from Earth's history: ancient warriors charging into battle, guerrilla fighters hiding in jungles, pilots flying impossible missions with smiles on their faces, scientists building weapons in secret laboratories, artists painting pictures of defiance. "Humans have never won by following rules," Park said. "We win by breaking them. We win by doing things our enemies never expect. They have conquered 47 species using fear and overwhelming force. Every species they faced tried to fight back with logic and military tradition. Every species lost. So we will not use logic. We will not follow tradition." He looked around the table. "I want ideas, crazy ideas, stupid ideas, ideas that make no sense. Give me everything." Engineer raised her hand. She was young, only 32, with messy hair and oil stains on her uniform. She spent more time with machines than with people, and she had a reputation for building things that should not work but somehow did. "I have an idea," she said nervously. "They use a specific frequency for their communication systems. What if we broadcast something on that frequency? Something loud, something annoying, something that disrupts their ability to coordinate." "What kind of something?" asked. Pulled up an audio file. Human music, specifically the loudest and most aggressive music we have. Death metal, war drums, ancient battle songs, sounds that are designed to create emotion and chaos. Several officers laughed, but Park nodded slowly. "Continue." Intelligence officer spoke next. He was a quiet man who preferred shadows to spotlight. His job was to know things that others did not. They rely heavily on their sensors and targeting computers. They trust their machines completely. I propose we use that trust against them. He showed a schematic on the display. Ghost ships. We take old cargo vessels and equip them with holographic projectors. These projectors can create false images of warships. The sensors will detect hundreds of targets that do not exist. They will waste ammunition shooting at shadows. "They will figure out the trick eventually," said. "Yes," agreed. "But confusion buys time, and time buys opportunities." Combat Pilot Bay slammed her hand on the table. She was small and fierce, with short black hair and eyes that burned like fire. She had been flying combat missions for 15 years, and she had never lost a fight she could not win. "I have an idea," she said, "but you will all think I am crazy." "Perfect," Park said. "Tell us." Stood up and walked to the display. "They expect us to be afraid. Their entire strategy is built on breaking the spirit of their enemies. They show overwhelming force because they want their targets to feel hopeless. Fear makes people surrender. Fear makes people make mistakes. Fear wins wars before they begin." She turned to face the room. "So what happens when the enemy refuses to be afraid? What happens when they are laughing instead of crying? What happens when they treat the invaders as a joke instead of a threat?" "You want us to laugh at them?" one officer asked with disbelief. "No," said. "I want us to laugh with them. I want us to broadcast jokes and funny messages directly at their ships during combat. I want our pilots to mock them openly. I want the entire human fleet to fight with smiles on their faces." "That is insane," Li Minyu said. "Yes," agreed, "it is, and that is exactly why it will work. They have never faced an enemy that refused to take them seriously. Their soldiers are trained to crush resistance. They have no training for enemies who think the whole war is funny. Confusion leads to hesitation. Hesitation leads to mistakes. Mistakes lead to defeat." Admiral Park stood up. "I approve all of these proposals. Prepare the music broadcasts. Build the ghost ships. Train our pilots to laugh in the face of death." He looked at each person in the room. "I know this seems ridiculous. I know many of you think we are going to die. Maybe we are. But if humanity falls, we will fall laughing. We will fall making our enemies question their sanity. We will fall in a way that the galaxy remembers forever." Meanwhile, across the solar system, the fleet prepared for their easy victory. Lord sat in his command chair, reviewing reports from his spies on Earth. What he saw confused him. Human communication channels were not filled with panic. There were no desperate prayers, no tearful goodbyes. Instead, humans were sharing videos that mocked his surrender demand. Someone had edited his speech to make him appear to be singing a silly song. Another video showed his face attached to a dancing cartoon body. "What is the meaning of this?" Lord demanded. His advisor stepped forward nervously. "Supreme Commander, it appears the humans are making jokes about you." "Jokes?" "Yes, Supreme Commander. They do not seem afraid." Lord stared at the screen for a long moment. In 10,000 years of conquest, no species had ever reacted this way. Fear was natural, resistance was expected, But humor, mockery, this was something new. "They are fools," he finally said. "They laugh now because they do not understand what is coming. When our weapons destroy their cities, they will learn to scream." But deep in his mind, in a place he would never admit existed, Lord felt something strange, something unfamiliar. He felt uncertain, and uncertainty was the first crack in any armor. Commander Iam stood on the bridge of his ship, the Iron Spirit, watching the enemy approach. 200 warships had been sent ahead of the main fleet. Their mission was simple: destroy Earth's outer defense stations and clear a path for invasion. Had only 40 ships to stop them. He was 51 years old, a career soldier who had fought in every conflict humanity had faced in the last 3 decades. He had lost friends. He had lost battles. But he had never lost hope. And today, he was going to do something no human commander had ever done before. He was going to make an alien fleet question their sanity. "All ships, this is Commander IM," he said into his communication device. "You know the plan. You know it sounds crazy, but crazy is what we do best. Remember, we are not trying to win this battle. We are trying to break their minds. Today, we fight with laughter." His crew responded with cheers. Some of them were scared. All of them were ready. The ships moved into attack formation. They were beautiful and deadly, each one carrying enough firepower to destroy a small moon. Their weapons began to charge with glowing energy. This was the moment when most species would try to flee or beg for mercy. The human ships did neither. Instead, every human vessel broadcast a message simultaneously on all frequencies. "Attention fleet, welcome to the solar system. We hope you enjoy your stay. Please keep your tentacles inside the vehicle at all times." The communication officers froze. Their computers could not categorize this message. It was not a surrender. It was not a threat. It was not a tactical transmission. Their training had no response for jokes. Before they could recover, the human ships opened fire. But they did not attack in any logical pattern. They scattered in random directions, firing weapons from impossible angles. Some ships flew backward. Others spun in circles while shooting. One ship drew a rude gesture in the sky using laser fire. Pilot Hand flew her small fighter straight toward a cruiser 10 times her size. She was laughing as she dodged their weapons, slipping through gaps that should have been too small for any ship. "Hey, big guy," she broadcast. "Has anyone told you that your ship looks like a garbage container because you should throw yourself away?" The gunner targeting her hesitated. Was she insulting him? Why was she insulting him? Should he respond? His targeting computer lost lock for half a second, and Han used that moment to fire directly into his sensor array, blinding his ship. Across the battlefield, Engineer's special project came to life. Every human ship began broadcasting ancient Earth music at maximum volume. Heavy drums, screaming guitars, voices roaring in languages they had never heard. The sound invaded their communication systems, making coordination nearly impossible. "What is this noise?" one captain screamed. "Unknown, sir," his officer replied. "We cannot filter it out. It is on all frequencies." The ghost ships activated next. Suddenly, the sensors showed 300 additional human vessels appearing from nowhere. They opened fire on these new targets, wasting hundreds of missiles on holographic images that dissolved like smoke. Lord, watching from the main fleet, felt something he had not felt in centuries: confusion. "What are they doing?" he demanded. We do not know, Supreme Commander," his tactical officer admitted. "Their movements follow no known combat patterns. Their communications are incomprehensible. Some of our ships are reporting strange psychological effects." "Psychological effects?" "Yes, Supreme Commander, crews are feeling uncertain, disturbed. They say the humans are laughing at them." The battle continued for 3 hours. Human ships fell, one by one. Pilot Hand's fighter was finally hit after destroying 4 enemy ships, but instead of ejecting safely, she flew her damaged vessel directly into the engine bay of a command ship. Her final transmission echoed across all channels. "Special delivery. I hope you left a tip. HEHEHEHA." The explosion destroyed both ships. When the smoke cleared, they had won. On paper, they had destroyed 28 human ships while losing 67 of their own. They had crushed the outer defense stations and opened a path to Earth. But their crews were shaken in ways they could not explain. "Sir," a young soldier reported to his captain, "I request medical evaluation." "For what injury?" I cannot stop thinking about what they said. The jokes, the laughter. I cannot understand why they were not afraid. When I close my eyes, I hear their music. I hear them laughing. Similar reports came from every ship that had fought in the battle. Soldiers could not sleep. Officers could not focus. The certainty that had always defined the military was cracking. Lord dismissed these concerns. "They are fools playing foolish games. When we reach Earth, they will learn true fear. No amount of laughter will save them from our full force." But his advisor was less confident. "Supreme Commander, we have conquered 47 species. None of them reacted this way. Perhaps we should study these humans more carefully before proceeding." "There is nothing to study," Lord snapped. "They are animals making noise before slaughter. The main fleet advances as planned." Back on the Defiance, Admiral Park reviewed the battle reports. The losses hurt. Every ship destroyed meant lives lost, families broken. But the strategy was working. Commander stood beside him. "The first phase is complete," she said. "The enemy is confused but not defeated. They will reach Earth in 5 days." "Then we have 5 days to make them even more confused," Park replied. "Contact the underground. It is time for Phase 2. Somewhere in the dark spaces between stars, a message traveled to occupied worlds across the galaxy. Slaves who had served for generations received a simple transmission. It was a video of Han laughing as she crashed into the enemy ship. It was followed by one sentence: "They can be hurt, they can be scared, join us, fight with laughter." On the frozen minds of VII, an alien worker watched the video in secret. He had not smiled in 30 years, but watching the human pilot laugh in the face of death, something stirred inside him. For the first time since his world fell, he felt hope. And hope was the most dangerous weapon in the universe. The galaxy had been quiet for 10,000 years. The Dominion had made sure of that. 47 species lived under their rule, broken and obedient. They worked in mines and factories. They served their masters. They never questioned, never resisted, never hoped. That was simply how the universe worked. Until the humans changed everything. The video of Han's final laugh spread like fire across occupied worlds. Someone shared it on VII. From there, it jumped to Prime, then to the orbital factories of, then to 100 other planets. They tried to block it, but they could not stop whispers in the dark. On a mining colony called Deep Station 9, a group of aliens gathered in secret. They were different species, different shapes, different colors, but they shared one thing: chains. They had worn those chains for generations. They had forgotten what freedom felt like. Now they watched a human woman laugh as she died. "I do not understand," one of them said. "He was old, his body bent from decades of labor. Why was she laughing? Was she insane?" A younger alien answered, "No, she was not afraid. The humans, they are not afraid of the—" "That is impossible. Everyone fears the Dominion." "Not everyone, not anymore." The dance remix of Lord reached Prime next. Workers in the industrial zones played it quietly at first, then louder. When guards demanded to know what they were listening to, the workers claimed it was religious music. The guards could not tell the difference. But the workers knew, and for the first time in centuries, they smiled at each other. Lord was receiving troubling reports. His spies across the Dominion warned of a spreading sickness, not a physical disease but something worse. Jokes, laughter, mockery. Conquered peoples were repeating human words, sharing human humor, questioning whether the Dominion was truly as powerful as it claimed. "This is unacceptable," Lord declared to his war council. "We will crush Earth immediately. When humans burn, their foolish hope will die with them." He ordered the fleet to accelerate. Earth would fall in 3 days instead of 5. But Admiral Park was not waiting. He had his own plans in motion. Commander led a small strike team behind enemy lines. Their ship, the Silent Wind, was designed for stealth, able to slip past sensors without detection. With her were the best operatives humanity had, demolitions expert Shin and hacker No. Their mission was insane. They were going to plant fake intelligence in the information network. Shin was a large man with gentle eyes and hands that could build anything or destroy anything. He had spent 20 years working with explosives, and he had never met a problem he could not blow up. No was his opposite. Small, quiet, and brilliant, she could break into any computer system in the known galaxy. She had once hacked a military satellite network using nothing but a coffee maker and spare parts. "The target is the relay station ahead," said as they approached. "You will access their network. You will provide the distraction." "What kind of distraction?" asked with a grin. "The loud kind." The station was lightly guarded. They did not expect anyone foolish enough to attack them behind their own lines. That was their first mistake. Planted charges on the station's power generators. When they exploded, the lights went dark and alarms screamed. Guards rushed toward the explosion, leaving the computer core unprotected, slipped inside like a ghost. Her fingers flew across alien keyboards. The language was complicated, but she had studied it for months. She found the military intelligence network and planted her prize, a fake document describing a human called the Punchline. According to the false intelligence, the Punchline was a device capable of destroying entire fleets with a single activation. Humans had built it in secret. They were waiting for the right moment to use it. Any attack on Earth would trigger its activation. None of it was true. The Punchline did not exist. But they did not know that. Uploaded the document and erased her traces. Within hours, the fake intelligence spread through the Dominion's military network. Ship captains received warnings. Officers shared worried messages. Rumors grew with each retelling. "Have you heard about the Punchline? They say it can destroy 1,000 ships at once. Why are we attacking if they have such a weapon? Maybe the Supreme Commander knows something we do not. Maybe we are all going to die." Lord received reports of falling morale. His ships were still advancing, but crews were nervous. Some captains requested confirmation that the Punchline was a myth. Lord could not confirm anything because he did not know the truth. The uncertainty he had felt before grew stronger. Meanwhile, Admiral Park received a message that changed everything. It came through a secret channel, encrypted with codes that should not exist. The sender called themselves the Free Voices, a network of resistance groups spanning 12 occupied worlds. Their message was simple: "We are ready to rise. Tell us how to fight like humans." Park showed the message to his command staff. Commander smiled. "The seed is growing." "It is not enough," Park said. "We need to give them something to fight for. We need to show them that victory is possible." He recorded a response. His face filled the screen, tired but strong, defiant but warm. "Friends across the stars," he said, "you have lived in darkness for too long. The Dominion told you that resistance was impossible. They told you that hope was foolish. They lied. We are proof that they can be challenged. We are not stronger than you. We are not braver than you. We simply chose to laugh instead of cry. You can make the same choice. When the time comes, rise together, fight together, laugh together. And remember, no empire lasts forever. Even the longest night ends with sunrise." The message traveled across the galaxy. Slaves heard it in their crowded dormitories. Prisoners heard it in their cells. Soldiers who secretly hated their masters heard it and wondered if change was possible. On every occupied world, something stirred, something ancient and powerful, something that had tried to destroy but could never fully kill. Hoping. The final battle was coming, and the entire galaxy would be watching to see if laughter could truly defeat fear. The planet hung in space like a blue jewel, beautiful and fragile. 8 billion humans looked up at the sky, knowing that death was coming. Some prayed, some cried, but many smiled because they had learned something important in the last few weeks. Fear was a choice, and they chose to reject it. Admiral Park stood on the bridge of the Defiance for the last time. Around him, his crew prepared for the battle that would decide the fate of humanity. 280 human warships formed a defensive line in front of there. Behind them, 60 more ships had arrived from unexpected allies, species who had escaped control and answered humanity's call. 340 ships against 1,800 warships. The mathematics had not changed, but the spirit of the fleet had. Lord appeared on every screen across the solar system. His 4 eyes burned with cold anger. Humans of Earth, this is your final moment. Surrender now and I will only execute your leadership. Continue this foolish resistance and every human will die. Your children will die. Your elders will die. Your entire species will be erased from history. Choose wisely. Admiral Park smiled. He opened a channel to all ships, human and alien alike. His voice was calm and steady. My friends, he said, we have come a long way. We started this journey as strangers, divided by species and distance. We stand here now as brothers and sisters, united by something stronger than blood. We are united by hope. He paused and looked around his bridge. His crew watched him with trust in their eyes. Commander nodded at him. Pilot Bay grinned from her station. Engineer gave him a thumbs up. When they write about this day, Park continued, they will say that humans stared into the void and chose to smile. They will say we faced impossible odds and refused to kneel, and they will wonder why. The answer is simple. We are humans. We have survived ice ages, plagues, and ourselves. We have turned every disaster into a story, every tragedy into a song. We laugh because laughter is the one thing tyrants can never conquer. He stood tall. All ships attack with joy. The fleet surged forward. They opened fire with everything they had. Space itself seemed to burn as thousands of weapons released their deadly energy. Human ships exploded in the first wave. 10, 20, 30. Each explosion was a tragedy. Lives ended in moments of fire. But the survivors kept moving. They flew into the enemy formation, breaking their perfect lines. They broadcast music and jokes and laughter across every frequency. They fought with a desperate joy that they could not understand. Pilot Bay led a squadron of fighters directly at Lord's flagship. She had painted a smile on the nose of her ship. Her voice rang out across the battlefield. Hey Lord, knock knock. The commander did not respond. I said knock knock, repeated, dodging enemy fire with impossible skill. You are supposed to say who is there. Her squadron punched through the flagship's outer defenses. Gunners could not track the small human fighters. They were too fast, too unpredictable, too crazy. Commander flew beside. Her ship was larger, a command vessel designed for coordinated attacks. But today she was not coordinating. She was fighting with her own hands. She said, I see an opening in their shield grid, Section 7. I see it too, replied. Want to knock on their door together. Let us give them something to remember. The 2 ships dove toward the flagship's bridge. Point defense systems tried to stop them. Missiles exploded around them. Lasers cut through space. Ship took hit after hit, her systems failing one by one. I am going in, she announced. Finish what I started. No, you will die. Maybe, but I will die laughing. Tell the Admiral I said the punchline was worth it. Ship crashed through the flagship's bridge window. The explosion ripped through Lord's command center. When the flames cleared, half the bridge was destroyed. Lord himself was injured, bleeding blue blood from wounds across his body. But he was alive, and so was his rage. "Destroy them all," he screamed. "Every ship, every human, leave nothing." The battle grew more desperate. Human ships fell by the dozens, but so did vessels. The Allied aliens fought with courage they had forgotten they possessed. On the bridge of the Defiance, Admiral Park watched his fleet dying. He made a decision. "All ships, this is Admiral Park. Fall back and protect the civilian transports. I am taking the Defiance into their main formation." "Admiral, that is suicide," one officer protested. "Perhaps, but suicide is just another word for sacrifice, and sacrifice is just another word for love." The Defiance moved alone toward the heart of the enemy fleet. Park stood at the front of his bridge, hands clasped behind his back. His ship was taking damage from every direction. Fires burned in the corridors. Systems failed one by one. But he kept smiling. Lord saw the human flagship approaching. "What is he doing? Is he surrendering?" "No, Supreme Commander. He appears to be ramming us." "Insane, they are all insane." The Defiance hit Lord's flagship at full speed. The collision destroyed both ships in a massive explosion that could be seen from Earth. Admiral Park died instantly, still smiling. But his sacrifice changed everything. With Lord dead, the fleet lost its coordination. Panic spread through their ranks. Ships began retreating without orders. The rumors about the punchline came rushing back. Was this it? Was the weapon activating? Commander, her ship damaged but still flying, took command of the remaining human fleet. "This is Commander, the enemy is broken. All ships push forward. Show them what humans are made of for Admiral Park, for Earth, for everyone who ever refused to kneel." The final push lasted 3 hours. When it ended, the armada was shattered. Surviving ships fled in every direction. Earth was safe. And across the galaxy, on every occupied world, the news spread like wildfire. They had lost. The invincible dominion had been broken by a young species that fought with jokes and music and mad courage. Revolutions erupted on 100 planets. Slaves rose against their masters. The chains that had held the galaxy for 10,000 years began to break. 1 year later, Commander stood on the steps of the newly built Galactic Council. Representatives from 50 species gathered to sign a charter of mutual defense and friendship. They called themselves the Laughing Alliance. Stepped to the podium. Behind her was a statue of Admiral Park, his face wearing an eternal smile. "We gather here today," she said, "not as conquerors but as friends. We have all lost much. We have all suffered much. But we have learned that the greatest weapon in the universe is not fear. It is hope. It is laughter. It is the stubborn refusal to accept that darkness will last forever." She looked up at the stars. "Admiral Park once told me that humans do not kneel. Today, I tell the same thing to the galaxy. None of us will ever kneel again. We will stand together. We will laugh together. And any tyrant who threatens our freedom will learn the same lesson they learned." She smiled. You cannot defeat a people who refuse to stop smiling. The applause lasted for hours. And somewhere in the great beyond, Admiral Park was still laughing.